To X-Wing stream. I am your host for tonight, Mark, and with me is Kevin. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy to be here, and really interested to see how this game turns out. Honestly, this is a very interesting and potentially bloody matchup.
Yeah, actually, that's why I'm almost looking forward to it as much as I am. This is not a game I don't think where you're going to be seeing a lot of downtime or empty air as the players jockey for position. Both of these are very hard hitting, very aggressive lists.
Absolutely, yeah, and fairly even on initiatives as well, with one exception.
Right, that's a good point. Let's get into that. Well, real quick, let's go down the lists for people that may be unfamiliar with the words that are on the screen right now. Could you give us a quick rundown for Charles's list there?
So Charles got a lovely resistance four ship list. Skipping past Poe, we've got the Jess Pava, Rose Tico, and a just a nice Red Squadron expert. A nice trio of Initiative 3 ships. Crack shot on the two that aren't Jess Pava because Pava can't take any, and I kind of like that. But what I really appreciate about this is that it's with Rose and Jess together, they both get to re-roll off each other, and I really like that synergy. And Rose is one of these ships that looks extremely fragile until you start fighting her, and that combined with just another filler Initiative 3 ship is just this lovely bundle that could easily just mow through things and be surprisingly tanky. And then, of course, you've got Poe Dameron as the flanking ace with outmaneuver and R4 Astromech. R4, I feel like, should be stapled to Poe. That's just me personally. I prefer that over regen. And outmaneuver, normally I wouldn't go for that, but hey, you know what? If you've got the points and you've got this flanking ace, I don't blame him. I quite like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's we've seen a couple games from Charles by now, and in both of those games, those passive abilities, Rose's re-rolls, Jess's re-rolls, have been a deciding factor for his ability to
Sir,
to survive.
the only thing I would change if this was me is I would replace Crackshot with Heroic, but that's just because I always miss Heroic whenever I don't have it.
Yeah, that's fair. Although Rose doesn't need it.
Doesn't need it. The Initiative 3 Red Squadron, that
Yeah.
that would be a nice little trifecta, I think.
Well, it'd
But
be interesting to talk to him after this game's over, after the tournament's over, see how many times he manages to get that crack shot off. And then Brien coming in with a list that we've seen a few variations of here in the Corona Cups, and that's a Rebel list with 4 U-Wings. We've seen 4 U-Wings, we've seen 3 U-Wings and an Ace. This one is all in on the U-Wing. So he's got 2 Blue Squadron Scouts, just the generics. Those are PS2. Then he's got benthic 2 tubes, which is also PS2, and that one's got Perceptive Co-Pilot on it, so he can take a focus and then pass the second focus to another ship. Then he's got Heftaber, which is, just kind of there to help if he starts bumping. And the two most interesting things he has here, he's got Cash and Andor on one of those Blue Squadron Scouts, and let me put that up on the screen here. So Cash and Andor lets you attempt to predict a nearby ship's dial, and if you get it right, you get to change your dial. But that's not really why he's got it here. He's got Cash and Andor in this list so that when on the turns when he does a stop with his U-Wings, he gets a free kind of sense. He can look at a ship he's worried about and see where they're going to go and then change the direction he rotates on his stop. And that's allowed because the pivot wing upgrade allows him to rotate his U-Wings when he stops. And the other Blue Squadron Scout has Leia Crew, which we haven't seen as much lately. Used to be a very popular mainstay of any decent Rebel list in 2.0. And Leia is going to let him essentially every 3 turns as the charges build, Leia's going to let him turn all of those red stops for his list into white stops. And that's deceptively powerful because it lets him turn these very sometimes ungainly ships on a dime and catch Charles from whatever direction he comes from. This list is very, very difficult to try and flank because he might be heading straight, but for all you know, this is the turn he decided to stop and hit left, and you could be heading right into a trap.
And it's also with 4 medium bases, it's very hard to get past all that table space and try to clear it if you're trying to blow past them or come around on the side. Um, I actually played against almost this exact list at Worlds, and I won, but by pure luck. I literally snatched victory on the last round from the jaws of defeat, and I actually felt very bad about that one, but
Yeah, it's, at the end of the day, and this is something a lot of people are familiar with, I mean, it's just a lot of health. Every one of those
it is a
ships has
lot of help.
8 health, 3 shields, 5 hull, and they've got 2 agility dice defending that. And the other thing that you need to keep in mind too is he's got really good action economy here. Benthic is tossing around focus tokens. Leia's ensuring that they're rarely going to be stressed and not taking actions. And it's a lot of health to chew through. It's a lot of power to evade while you're chewing through it.
They all have coordinate too.
And they all have coordinate, and that's a really good point as well. And then they've got cash in to help them outmaneuver you. Though the thing that Brien doesn't have by and large, though, is rerolls. He doesn't have defensive rerolls, and since he's probably going to be focusing by and large, he doesn't have good offensive rerolls either. At PS2, it's going to be a rare occasion when we see one of these guys target lock.
It's
but
true.
you were talking.
If someone,
No, go
I
ahead.
could see someone bumping into Hef and then Hef taking a target lock. You've got Zeb on there, so you can still attack the ship that bumped into you.
That's true. That might be one of the few cases. And then Benthic tosses him a focus token, and all of a sudden you've got a range 1 target lock focus attack. That could be very scary here.
One other note I'll have about Cassian, and this is, I've never, it's one of those cards I've always been interested to try out, but I've never just gotten around to it. There's so many different lists in my head that I've never gotten the chance to put on the table. Cassian, to me, not only as a kind of sense, but also as a kind of, whenever you have those turns where you're like, this guy could either do like a 1 bank or maybe he'll do a 4K, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Narrowed it down to 2 very strong possibilities. And so you dial in for one, and then you Cassian for the other one.
Yeah, that's certainly doable.
Less applicable with this list, I feel, than in most cases.
Right,
But
because
if he's going for the block with that yellow U-wing, that might
maybe I feel like U-wings get a special amount of use out of cash-in because they get to, in a sense, delay their positioning decision until they actually have to move when they do the stop maneuver. When they do the stop maneuver, they don't have to decide if they're going to be pointing straight right or left when they set their dials. They can delay that until PS2 after cash-in goes off. I think it's probably going to be pretty rare we see them choose between, say, a 1 bank and a 2 hard turn, but I could be wrong. Certainly, Brian's going to have a lot of opportunities. And let's talk about pilot skill, too, while they set dials, because it's important, and I don't know who has the advantage. It's going to be entirely Brien and then entirely Charles. Charles moves after with everyone, and he shoots before with everyone. So he can PS kill.
And outmaneuver with Poe, especially where he's got him on the flank there.
Mm-hmm.
That could be very important. Depending if I was in Charles' shoes, that Poe would be going 4 straight boost for the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, we might see him do it. Though I do think that Charles would very much like to lure these U-wings into this pretty condensed asteroid field here if he can.
Yeah, this is a very, very cluttered field of asteroids and very good for Charles. Looks like Brien is just trying to plow past it as quickly as possible, and I don't blame him. Setting himself up for a potential three bank around that rock there.
Maybe he is. He's definitely keeping everyone together, and that makes sense. This list is going to live or die by its ability to concentrate good fire.
Mhm.
Uh, but I could still see a couple of these coming up uh, through this area right by this long gas cloud, and then the rest come up and around. But the other thing to consider, I mean, that's not the pilot skill is not just an advantage for shooting. That's going to be a mass of ships that Charles has to consider when he moves. Because you're in for a very, very bad time if you bump into the leading U Wing and then get yourself shot up at range 1 or 2 by the other three.
Oh, especially because Heftober is the one in the inside and front, so the one most likely that you're going to bump into.
Exactly right, and he'll be able to shoot you anyway because of Zeb. So that's obviously very smart positioning by Brien. He knows what he's doing here. And
Now,
Charles can get a decent advantage if even if he just forces Bryant to rotate and get Hef into the rear.
now it looks like Charles has just started slow rolling into the asteroid field, and that's fair. You know, you don't want. He's got a nice open lane where he can fly between the obstacles immediately in front of him before he
Hmm.
has to start maneuvering.
That's
So
a good
using those for
point. What do you think about Charles deploying where he did? I mean, Poe on the
uh,
flank, that one makes sense, right?
I mean, I think the three ships in the middle offset a bit makes as much sense as anything. Like I said, it gives him a chance to um, kind of fly past these first two obstacles right in front of him, and maybe get some cover and use those rerolls to tank for and kind of delay the massive health while Poe gets into position. What I'm not a fan of is actually Poe only doing a three straight this first round. Maybe that's just me. I'm a pretty aggressive player. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, my only concern is, I mean, if you want to draw these U wings in, he's just so Charles is already so far into that field. The U wings kind of get to go straight and then too hard turn and come around it by and large, but Charles is in the thick of it, and his formation is already going to be disrupted because he doesn't have enough room to pinwheel around like he wants to. And I'm just wondering if he may have preferred to deploy a little bit farther south with his three ship block there and give himself a little bit more room to draw the U wings through. But that's neither here nor there. We're already in the game.
We
But
are.
I wouldn't expect him to see doing anything else other than slow rolling. This is one of those times where going slower than your opponent is actually kind of an advantage.
Yeah.
And we could
Um.
still see Charles exiting the Bree field to the right or to the south.
Well, it's possible for. I think even a too hard turn still clips the asteroids, so I think he's committed to at least flying past the rock next to that's immediately to Jess's the let's see the bottom left corner of the screen as far as the streams camera goes.
Right.
My concern with Brien is actually with Brien a little bit, where he's forced to, yeah, he's slowing his U wings down a little bit to allow the back ones to catch up,
Right.
which I feel like works a little bit more in Charles's favor in this case.
Yeah, it does. Charles's greatest fear right now has got to be, you know, these U wings look big and imposing, and we're talking about them like they are, but there's actually only one hull difference between a U wing and a T-70. Charles's ship also have 3 attack, 2 agility, 3 shields. They just have 4 hull instead of 5. So there's not a huge difference. These U wings look very imposing to joust, but Charles isn't terribly disadvantaged by doing that, especially because he has lots of rerolls where Brien doesn't. But what has to be something that Charles is thinking about right now is that Poe needs to get into this fight before too long. And this fight is happening sooner than not.
Yeah.
You know,
In
if we're
fact, it
not,
might even be starting right this turn.
yeah, I expect that it's going to be just barely out, but it's
That looks like it's just barely out of range 3, though at this point, that leading T-70 is out of Heftover's arc.
right,
It's a fairly safe position. I'm not a big fan of it personally, but,
right.
I
Yeah,
mean, uh, I don't know. My concern is where Jess Pava has landed.
yeah. Jess is in a bit of a bit of an unfortunate spot. I don't know that a one bank clears that asteroid, and that's what she needs to do here. Yeah, we're just going to be just out of combat here. So really, both players in a bit of an unfortunate position here. Charles would really rather Jess be somewhere else, and probably would rather Poe be just a little bit farther. Although I think Poe probably a 4 straight boost will get him a good flanking shot here.
I'm actually thinking a 3-turn from Poe this turn.
I'm worried about the 3 turn because I think that gets Poe in a little bit too close to the rest of Charles's ships. You really want to be forcing these U-wings to be looking in 2 different directions.
Certainly, but that is true. And I guess a 4 straight and then a boost, and then you can Poe action into a focus.
Exactly.
That would get him shots on the trailing U-wing. So
Right.
that's that. I mean, that does still get Poe into the fight.
And then he's in a great position for the next turn.
Yeah, I could see that too. Now you were talking about the one bank from Pava. I think that does clear that rock. However, if the Red Squadron expert tries the same one bank, I'm pretty confident that lands him on the gas cloud.
Meanwhile, I was going to say I think he can do the one bank without landing on the gas cloud, but just can't. I guess we'll figure it out. Let me ask you this question: with this list, there's always is this the turn Brien stops with everyone with Leia? Is this the turn Brien stops with everyone with Leia? Do you think?
I would say absolutely not.
You think so?
Based purely on where Benthic is.
I'm one.
He might stop the leading ones, maybe, but I don't see this being the Leia turn.
It's just I wonder about it because I mean, yeah, if you rotate that bright red one, then he's heading into the rock next turn, but that's not the end of the world for Brien. And it lets you get green and yellow into better positions. If you rotate green and yellow this turn, they can get into the fight right now and be in a better spot next turn as well. But if you don't, green is going to continue taking some time to come around, but he's going to choose not to and do that 2 hard turn we were talking about. And there's
I think green might 2 hard as well and just try to meet Poe at the flank.
Sure. I still think, yeah, this is the problem Brian's found himself in. I still think it would have been a better idea for Brien to pull those trailing U-wings down around through this gas cloud and really close off Charles's escape avenues. But instead, what he's done is essentially Charles has a turn here where he gets to contend with half of Brian's list with, depending on Poe's move, all of Charles's. And that's always a good spot for you to be in. Okay, so my prediction was right.
You were right about the gas cloud.
So I'll take my money for that. Okay. So he very confidently just decides to go for it, and he gets it with both moves, and he's not getting bumped at all.
Yeah, and Rose doing the 1 straight, keeping both of her friendly ships in arc. That's
right.
Fair.
Very, very smart play by Charles. And so let's see what Poe does. He's
going to open his foils.
Okay, so
we're both wrong.
He's taking the middle ground between our 2 suggestions. Yours was very aggressive, just hard turn in. Mine was very non-confrontational. Take the long way around, take an outmaneuver shot. Ben, he's choosing instead to just kind of lazily come around and just take a focus. It looks like he said
he's focused on target locking, is what he's saying.
Oh, I'm not oh.
I don't hate it. I mean, he can't boost straight because the gas cloud's right in front of him.
Yeah,
Um,
although he would have had an outmaneuver shot on yellow with no
yes.
actions to speak of.
Oh no, I agree. It should have been the target lock on yellow.
I mean, I
Absolutely.
think all of Charles's shots should be going into yellow this turn.
I
Uh,
don't know about all of them,
though
but
maybe it wasn't in range. Did we see the range on Poe there?
he dropped out. I'm pretty sure yellow wasn't. Well, I don't.
If you
Yeah, yellow was in range. The stream lag just caught up. So
Okay,
yeah, yellow
yeah,
wasn't.
that's unfortunate. I think he needed to adjust his maneuvers. He's going to be putting shots into this guy with 2 focus tokens, some at range 3, and Poe doesn't
Well,
have outmaneuver.
he could be trying to make sure that he focus fires. I think
Right.
Halftober is the better shot for the threes in Charles's list, and so Poe is just meeting and focus firing their shots.
I disagree. I think yellow is the better shot for all of them because there's no mods there. But in any case, his decision's clearly made, and once you make that decision, you really have to go.
Yeah.
You can't start splitting your fire. So we've got the first shot out there. That was Poe shooting, I believe, right there.
Yep, that was Poe for 1 damage.
Right. And now we've got Rose shooting. Doesn't need a reroll. It's just going to spend that focus for 2 hits, but it's going to be met with. Oh. All right. So just a focus blank there from that Ewing, and he'll spend one of those focuses for a single evade, and
then crack shot.
yeah, he's just going to go ahead and crack shot it. Crack shot probably going to be getting full value here against these larger targets. A lot easier to get bullseye on. Red Squad veteran's going to be shooting next. He's got a range 2 shot on Hef, and Charles again. He's just going all in on Hef now. He's chosen his target. It's pretty unlikely he's going to manage to PS kill this ship before it gets to shoot.
Well, with these rolls, I don't know.
But he may well get the chance. He has to do 5 damage with these 2 shots, and 3 is incoming. Good lord, that's 3 straight damage there. All right.
And worth noting, yellow was not in arc of the reds. So that may have affected Charles's decision there.
Yeah, it may
I think you're right. I think shooting the ship on the rock that was outmaneuvered was probably the more vulnerable target, but perhaps that was what affected his decision.
Maybe. Well, Jess is going to have her reroll here. There's no reason not to spend it right here. You know, if you manage to PS kill this ship, this is a huge deal for you.
Oh my god. It's nothing but paint on all 4 of those attacks.
And that is going to be just enough. There's nothing Brien can do to stop that from getting PS killed. And before Hef even gets to shoot, he's out of the game.
That is
huge.
Well, we said this game would be bloody.
And good lord, it already
exactly
is.
predicted. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, every single one of those was paint on all 12 of those red dice. I mean, granted, after mods and rerolls and everything,
right.
Crack shots, like it took a lot of resources, but boy, it was worth it.
Oh no, and Brien needs to make something happen here, and that's not going to be a good start. His only shot, because the yellow's on a rock, his only shot rolling triple blanks, and this is what we're talking about starting off. Charles has rerolls, Brien doesn't.
Brien is before. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, Brien is really every time he rolls, Brian's got to be praying that he doesn't roll blanks, and Charles does not have to make that same prayer. Poe got blanks, got to reroll. Jess got blanks, got to reroll. You know, it's a big deal, and anybody who's ever played a droid swarm can tell you that. You know, some games you walk in and you wish you'd been taking target locks.
Yeah, and before I was gonna say out loud before Brien revealed his dials that I was expecting yellow to do a straight maneuver, potentially, you know, take some long range shots. That 3 bank might just be the maneuver that kind of ends this game prematurely.
Yeah, certainly. Brien just not in a very good space right now. You know, and choosing to have those 2 trailing U-wings come all the way around. Green still not in a good position here. Yellow and orange also not in really great positions. He may one straight and one bank them, but you might be splitting your fire by doing that, and no one's in a good position to take on Poe.
No. Green may stop and rotate 90 degrees. Um, let's see. If I'm Brien at this point, I think what I do is I actually pivot the entire list on Poe.
Yeah, that's certainly doable. You could, for example, two hard turn yellow to the left, two bank brown, and then Leia pivot green,
Yeah.
and
Although
really
I'm
try to
thinking maybe
push
even a
damage.
one bank. I'm thinking even a one bank for the blocks.
Yeah, I wonder. I think a two bank really accomplishes it. Although, I still think Rose can one straight, Jess can one bank, and maybe avoid that bump, and you're still taking a ton of damage.
Certainly.
Charles, once again in the very enviable position of having really nothing to do except just one straight or one bank to be in the perfect position with just about all of his ships. Poe, a little bit dice here, but not really in a bad position either. He could very well just dial in a 3 straight here, take the lay of the land, and then boost and barrel roll to get out if he needs to.
Certainly. The Red Squadron veteran is in a decent position to 4K as well.
That's true, although that seems like a risk just in case Brien decides to stop this turn with Brown, which is not out of the realm
Yeah.
of possibility.
Well, it wouldn't block the K turn.
That's true. What are we? Oh, we're looking for Cassian here.
Oh, and he gets to peek at Red Squadron veteran or expert.
Right. And Charles just doing a one bank there, or is that a one straight? I can't quite see.
It's a one bank.
Okay, yeah, Charles just doing the one bank again. Why would you do anything else? You really just need to keep shooting.
Yeah. I mean, the 4K is fancy, but I don't just like the one bank is the safe bet. And at this point, there's no reason for Charles to make any huge risky plays.
Hef died so fast I didn't update it on the screen.
And yellow doing that too hard turn off the rock to try and catch Poe.
Yeah, I think your prediction was right on the mark here. He's thinking, okay, that sucked. I lost a ship right off the bat. That's 45 points gone. But you know who's 38 points have? Poe. Turn hard in on Poe this turn. Maybe you can make something happen. And then next turn, you can just Leia and rotate back around wherever you need to be.
Oh my god, Red Squadron veteran did not bump.
Good lord. Well,
that's tragic.
Yeah. He's going to have a crack shot, range 1 shot on that Brown U-Wing right there, and that's just more bad news for Brien. Not really
Takes
getting
the
what
target
he needs.
lock. Why not?
Yeah, Jess also not going to bump. Just going to be able to focus and just unload damage. Rose, yeah, Charles just getting his dream here with nothing more than one banks and one straights.
I think you were correct. He did the one bank with the Blue Squadron Scout there, and I think your call of a two bank would have been correct.
Right.
I expect Brien was feeling a little cautious, worried that the Scout would bump into the yellow right in front. But that extra distance probably would have created at least one block.
Yeah, and right now, unfortunately, in hedging his bets, he's going to be taking. And we just checked for range there with Rose. He's going to be jamming the focus off of that U-Wing.
Oh my god!
So no need. Rose is saying, "I don't need a focus token. I've got 2 rerolls here." And just straight removing that focus, not only to help Poe survive here, but also to make it die.
The timer is still stopped on the stream.
Oh, it is. All right, 39 minutes. Let me update that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pods having the jam action is just so nice. And where Finn in the pod usually is, was the boogeyman for a while. You never saw him do that because he really needed the focus action.
Right.
The
Rose, no
Rose
such
and
issue.
BD8 are just free and clear to do whatever they want half the time.
Well, Poe going all in on offense, saying, I just took a U-wing from full to nothing, and it was at range 3 with 2 focus tokens. I'm pretty sure I can do the same to this one, range 1 with no tokens to speak of. And he's just going to stay right where he is and focus and target lock.
Yeah, just does a nice 2 bank to the left to clear his stress. Does not bump, which also astonishes me.
Yeah, and he may have been thinking that he was about to bump when he did that jam action, but Poe in a very good position here. And Charles is just
Yeah.
going to unload damage and look to PS kill another U-wing. Has this U-wing shot? This is the one that shot last turn, right?
That is correct.
All right. It didn't do anything, but
No. That's kind of the insult to injury in that Charles took a U-wing off the board and didn't even lose a shield.
If Charles takes another U-wing off the board, this might be the only game I've ever seen where literally half of the opponent's list has died before any damage has been taken. And
That's very doable.
That's a big deal. It's a huge deal, and it's something to make you cautious about taking a list full of pilot skill 2s. That's a pretty solid roll. If I'm Charles, he's spending his target lock. I think
He might be a little worried about the range 1 shot from yellow.
Oh, I'm sure he is, but I think once you've made your decision here, you got to stick with it. And his decision's very clearly, I'm taking Brown off the board. But he hedges his bets a little bit and just gets 1 point of damage through on that U-wing. So an okay start for Charles here. And we'll see how the rest of this goes. He still needs to do 7 more damage with these 3 shots, but he's rolling 11 dice.
Yeah, he's got a lot more firepower to punch through him this time than last time.
Right. Looks like he's starting off with the Red Squad vet. He's going to be spending his target lock to re-roll those 2.
Perfectly average start to his roll.
And very good finish. 4 hits coming through that U-wing, who rolls yet another double blank. And there's that damage picking up that Charles is looking for. 2 hits through. Charles now very likely going to be killing this U-wing. He only has to do 3 more damage to kill it. And so if I'm Charles, yeah, exactly. I would go right to Jess. Jess is your best chance of finishing this U-wing right here. And then you can maybe take a pot shot with Rose next. Jess definitely going to be using her pilot ability here to re-roll that blank.
And Brien has a little smoking.
And this is going to be 3 hits and a crit coming through with this U-wing. He needs double natty evades to live, and he does not get it. That is, once again, a dead U-wing before it gets to do anything in this game. And this is an absolute fucking bloodbath.
Yeah, there's no other way to describe it. And you were talking about the initiative too. I don't even think the initiative was the issue so much as the obstacles, the deployment, and the second round of maneuvers.
Yes. I think Brien will be looking back on this game and very much wishing that he had done anything other than what he did with yellow and green.
Something I always do whenever I've got, a list that I know needs to deploy and maneuver out of deployment a certain way is I'll often take a rock and I will put it in the exact spot it needs to be on my own side. I don't really care about trying to gum up the works for other people. I want to make sure I can get out of my deployment zone the correct way.
Right, and that's something that maybe needs to, Brien might want to look at in his deployment practice. But that's another U-wing off the board, and things are looking incredibly bad for Brien here.
He's Rose's shot did no damage, but whatever.
He's got a range 1 onto Poe. It's only going to be 2 hits. Once again, Brien needing those rerolls, but this time he got smart. He took a target lock. And that target lock is going to enable him to get 4 hits. So we'll see what Poe can do here. He does not have heroic. But he will get all paint and spend that focus token he saved to just take 2 shields on Poe. Still 2 away from half. Let's talk about something else too. The other reason that U-Wing dying was such a horrible thing for Brien is that was the one that had Leia on it.
Oh my God, I wasn't even paying attention to that. Yep.
So whatever shenanigans Brien may have planned for this upcoming turn are now kaput because Leia is off the board and gone. He just tossed another 3 damage through on Poe, and he manages to get half here. So that's going to be a couple of points coming through for Brien, but he needs to make a lot more happen to really start coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, Brien's to say he's in a rough spot, it would be an understatement here.
Yeah, an insult to the term rough spots. Charles continues to be in a position where there's absolutely nothing Brien can do to punish Charles for just going 1 straight with literally everybody he's got.
Well, I can see like a situation that can punish him if he just dials in a 1 straight for every single ship. Green's in a decent spot to basically cause a cascade of bumps, and yellow can stop and flip around and take shots.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Brien is just really wishing he had Leia so that he could turn around and still take plenty of those nice focus tokens with Benthic and with yellow. Though here's what we can do. It's not all bad. Brien can stop with yellow, rotate around to where he wants to be, and green he can use cash in for that purpose as well. Cash in still on the board with yellow. And then green can do a 2 straight and focus. That one's Benthic. And then he can toss that focus over to yellow so that they both have focuses, even though yellow's stressed.
You think a 2 straight fits there? I can't decide.
2 straight, I think, probably fits. But if you want to be very cautious about it, you would want to do a 1. I think you'd just rather do a 2 because a 2 might bump a little bit more. You're still taking a ton of damage.
I'm checking what range Red Squadron had to green.
It's just the last thing you want to be doing if you're Brien is rolling naked dice. It's just, you got to get those focus actions to make sure he's already having enough trouble making those rolls really matter. It's the turns where he's had good mods that he's actually been able to do something. If he's rolling naked dice on offense or defense, he's in big trouble here. Charles never has to worry about that. He always has his mods. He always has his tokens. Even if he bumps, he's still got rerolls on half of his list.
He does, but if Pava and the Red Squadron bump into green, into Benthic, then at least they can't shoot and do any damage this round.
Right, that's certainly true. Brien's going to have to use bumping to his full advantage here. He just, unfortunately, isn't in the best spot to do it. You would really want to be thinking about doing a banking maneuver with green to get the best advantage in your bumps, and yellow's in the way of that. And yellow really has to turn around.
And even all this maneuvering, finagling we're talking about with the bumps does not set Brien up well for next.
Yeah, no, Brien just in a very, very bad position here. There's no way around it. Sometimes you lose a ship, and it really enables you to come back hard the next turn because your opponent put himself out of position to get that, and that's just not the case here. Charles still in a great position. So yellow is going to cash in onto Poe's dial, and Poe just doing a 1 straight. And like I said, there's nothing Brien has here that is punishing Charles for doing anything other than what he's done literally this entire game. None of Charles's ships except for Poe have performed any actions except for except for a 1 straight or a 1 bank this entire game. And Brien not really doing anything to punish Charles for that predictability. Yeah, yellow just kind of stop and flip. Um, what else can you do? You got to take those shots. And now you know Poe's going to bump into you probably, so you're not going to get outmaneuver shot there. And then just a one straight from Benthic. He'll take that focus and pass it over to yellow. Yeah, exactly. Now, if Charles predicted this with red squad, he may have done a 4K, but he's just going to one straight. That's the lowest risk maneuver. And again, why not?
Certainly. And my concern is that I don't think Pava's one straight bumps that.
Yeah, I don't think it does either. I think Pava gets to slip in just nicely, but if Brien gets very, very lucky, it will.
The one bank is an interesting move from Rose.
Yeah, Rose may have been thinking that she might
Maybe to
bump.
set up for a K turn next turn?
It's possible. Certainly, we might be seeing a jam action coming out from Rose here. Charles very fond of his jam.
Oh, certainly.
Get that focus token off the E-wing, force it to roll those naked dice, and then just really increase the survivability of his ships.
And there's the jam, yeah.
There it is. Yeah, he's saying, and that's why it's such a good thing for Rose to do, because who wants to shoot at Rose anyway?
And that one straight from Pava just
slipping perfectly in, and that was an excellent thing by Charles there to just keep it slow, keep it simple. Poe gonna bump, and that's all right. Charles still has a very clear target this turn. He's going to be putting 3 shots into green. They aren't as good as they usually are or have been to this point. Rose will have a single reroll but no focus, and Poe will have no mods whatsoever. But Jess will continue to be an absolute powerhouse with probably 3 rerolls in range with Poe and a focus token.
And Poe getting the outmaneuver on Hef as well.
Yeah, exactly. But only one hit this time. Those mods really coming into play. But outmaneuver still helps. That's a shield off of Benthic there.
Yeah, I can't blame Brien for being cautious with the one straight on Benthic.
Mm-hmm.
Though, yeah, in hindsight, it looks like the 2 straight would have fit.
Yeah.
But if you don't know and you need that focus,
right. And I want to point out here, this damage from Charles is really slowing down. And this is what Brien wanted this entire game. Get in there, gum up the works, start bumping, start disrupting the formation. The problem is that Brien took such a long way around that he wasn't able to do it in time to really stop Charles from doing what he wanted first. By the time Brien is getting in here and gumming up the works, he already lost over half of his list.
Yeah. Ideally, by the time you're in this spot, there are 2 more U-wings behind Benthic that are preventing you from doing a K turn next turn.
Right. And Jess is a powerhouse here, but Jess, that's Poe didn't do much of anything, and neither did Rose. Yellow's going to roll, and that focus getting passed from Benthic, doing a lot of work here, coming in for 3 damage through on Jess.
That's pretty good, and given that Benthic can also shoot Jess,
yeah, and Benthic with a pretty good roll, that is going to be guaranteed Jess to half. And it's actually going to be Jess to exactly half. 3 damage to go on Jess. She's very glad she still had her focus token there.
Yep. Interestingly, Jess's foils are still closed.
Yeah, well, she hasn't needed them open. She can, they're nice big targets for that bullseye.
That is true.
So Brien getting a pretty good turn there, all told, but still taking quite a lot of damage in the process. And every time that he starts to catch up on points, Charles puts out just that much more damage. So Brien gets half on Jess, Charles gets half on a U-wing. And Charles is so far ahead as it is that that's just not going to happen. At this point, Charles has just about twice Brien's points.
Yeah. and Charles has the better positioning. Although
Agreed.
Rose, with the inability to K turn, I say all this, forgetting the U wings have to move first, and they have to contend with the cluster that they've made in front of themselves.
Yeah, and the Ewing's not in a very nice spot. We've talked about that already. Benthic not in. You really want Benthic to move and focus and pass it over to Yellow because Yellow's going to be bumping, but Benthic doesn't really have a good place to do that. Red Squad veteran in a perfect place to just K turn. Rose in a perfect place to just laze around and jam any actions that Brien manages to take. Poe can just bump for the rest of the game. He doesn't give a damn.
Yeah, Poe can one straight to victory, quite literally.
100%. Jess.
And I just think Jess doing a 3 Talon to the left.
I agree. I think a Talon roll would fit perfectly there and provide her with everything she needs. Rose and Red Squad veteran can make room and make sure that she still gets 2 re-rolls on any attacks or defenses she needs to do.
What I expect is that Benthic does a 2 bank to the right, focuses to toss one of them over to the Blue Squadron Scout, who would 1 straight and. Your options are extremely limited at this point.
Yeah.
Making sure Yellow has a good shot at one of these ships that's going to K turn and not have any defensive mods. Well, I mean, Jess will have a rerolls, I suppose, but probably spend them on attack. I don't know. He could try to turn bank to the left or go straight and try to put some distance between himself and the K turns.
Maybe. I mean, I think you just have to. The fact that Brien or that Charles is going to K turn is clear. He's doing casting for Poe. Poe's just gonna do a 1 bank because again, who the hell cares? I think you have to bump with Yellow on a straight, clear your stress, and I think you have to rotate around with Green. There's the bump with Yellow.
Rotate.
Green, he's moving out. And he'll take that focus action and pass the extra over to Yellow. But the problem is that by doing that, Green will have no shot, and he really, really needs shots right now. There's that K turn coming out with Red Squad vet. Again, perfect position to do that. There's the 3 Talon roll from Jess. Again, perfect position for that. Absolutely nothing stopping Charles from just 1 straighting until he can't anymore and turning around. Looks like he's thinking about, does he want to be forward? Does he want to be back a little bit? I don't think any of it's going to make a huge difference.
Might make a difference in range 2 and 3.
Maybe. And Jess will be stressed, but she's okay with that. She'll still have re-rolls. A re-roll at least, possibly re-rolls depending on where Rose goes. And yeah, she's just going to lazily turn in. Might still be in range for jamming.
I think definitely has range to Yellow. I don't think has range to Benthic.
It would be very close, but she might have range to Benthic, and that would go a long way to letting Charles ensure the death of Benthic this round. Charles needing only to do 3 points of damage here on Benthic.
Just focus for Rose, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at this point you probably could have just jammed, but that's all right. Taking the focus to ensure no damage gets through. And Poe bumping as well. Again, nothing Brian's doing is stopping Poe from just taking unmodded shots there. And Poe rolling 2 hits, outmaneuver, reducing that by 1, and so just 1 evade with that U-wing. And that's going to be just 2 more damage needed to get Benthic off the board.
Also, it seems Brien has brought the outer rim dice to this game.
Yeah, Brien clearly having fun at this point. He knows full well the game is not going his way.
Once you get to this point in the game, there are 2 ways to go about it. You can either get tilted, or you can just roll dice and have fun. And really, I feel like there's only one real answer. This is a direct. It's a direct.
And it is a direct hit. 2 shots is all it took for Charles to take Benthic off the board.
To be fair, once he's down to what did he have? 3 health left. That was 2 shots is about right.
Yeah. Well, that is leaves Charles open to take a what looks like a range 2 at yellow, and just insult to injury here. Brien continuing to take damage on these U-wings.
You know, seeing all these double blank evades just reminds me why I always keep coming back to resistance. It just feels really bad after playing resistance for so long and having that little safety net
With the
to
heroic,
roll. Yeah, I mean it's not as often as people think,
No,
but
but Brien
it's nice.
certainly would have gotten good use out of it this game.
No kidding.
Well, yeah, that bulk not doing Brien quite a lot of good when Charles is rolling just, all of his mods are giving him everything he needs in rolls, and Brian's dice aren't bailing him out of it. Yellow's going to have a shot here. It's hard to know who he might go after.
He's got range 1 to Rose and range 2 to Pava, who has already spent a reroll. If it were me, I would go at Pava.
I would go at Pava too. If the dice gods smile at you and want to bail you out just a little bit, they'll give you all paint and tell just to roll nothing but blanks and focuses.
Well, especially because Rose still has the rerolls and the focus, but he's taking the range 1.
Yeah, shooting at Rose is folly all of the time, but especially when she's got so many mods. He's gonna roll all paint, and he'll put that'll guarantee that Rose goes to half, and that'll be Brien picking up 17 points. Rose rolling the double blanks, but Rose has 2 rerolls available to her. Oh, no, it's in the attack arc. Rose only had 1 reroll available to her, but that's enough to prevent just a straight death.
Oh, I always thought that's right, because I always think of Rose's rerolls from her attacking perspective.
Right, but it's always the friendlies in the attack arc. So when she's attacking, the friendlies in her arc, and when someone else is attacking, it's Rose's friendlies in the enemy's arc. But this is, again, just the point. Charles gets his rerolls, and it is continuing, as it has in every game so far, to be a huge advantage for him.
And looking at how things went out, if Brien had shot at Pava, that would be 1 ship off the board.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately now it's not, and Rose is going to be able to escape with absolutely almost just about no chance of you doing any more damage. And she's going to probably just do that. I could see a 3 bank coming out here from Rose, 3 bank and focus, and that'll just clear the way for Jess and that red squad veteran to just once again return to lazily coming in with those 1 banks. And Poe can do the same.
I think a 2-turn from yellow fits between the red squadron, between Pava and the asteroid. Maybe a 3-turn. No, 2-turn.
Yeah, I think if it were me, I would just get that Rose the hell out of there with that 3 bank.
Oh no, I meant Brian's U-wing.
Oh.
Doing a 2 hard turn to the right.
The problem for Brien, and the reason why he's in such a terrible spot, is if he goes fast with yellow to bump into Jess, then he allows outmaneuver Poe to do a 1 straight up his flank and get an outmaneuver focused target lock. That's true. Even worse than Jess.
I suppose.
And Jess is already really bad.
I'm trying to think of ways that Brien could survive as long as possible and get as many points as he can. He's gonna stop, which I can see. Yeah, yeah, plenty of logic to that.
Here's that one bank from Red Squad veteran. Again, just nothing stopping Charles from doing everything he wants to do. The fact that he moved in that order might be showing a K turn from Rose, and yep, there it is.
Yeah, K with not jamming last turn, K turn seemed like a decent option.
Yeah, and ultimately, why not? Yellow doing the stop, not willing to let Poe move up the flank there. Um, he'll have a range one shot on Jess, but it's not going to be modded. And Jess needs 3 damage to die. It's going to be really hard. If you'd shot Jess last turn, maybe you could have done something. But at any rate, this U-Wing needs to survive these next 3 shots to have a say in anything. And the first one is
Yep.
going to be Rose here. Rose will have 2 rerolls because there are 2 friendlies in her arc. And she's going to spend one of those rerolls to get 2 hits.
I think there's actually 3 friendlies in her arc.
Oh, I believe you might be right there. No focus token on this U-Wing, so that's another point of damage.
Yeah, Brien just trying to go down swinging, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a decent roll coming in here from this Red Squad vet. He took a target lock. He's going to spend it. And, he's just going to get 2 hits. It's not too bad, especially with no natural evades there from Brien. So that's going to be another 2 damage on that U-Wing and 4 more to go. It's not
Hell,
inconceivable that Jess just deletes it off the board right here.
yeah, Red had Crackshot primed as well, just in case.
Yeah, has not needed it. And obviously that's a heck of a roll from Jess. When you have the free rerolls, the game doesn't make you use them. But there's the double evades there. So it's just going to be a hit crit coming through.
Another direct.
That's another direct hit, however. So that U-Wing just 1 damage away from death. And he will have the final shot of essentially of the game, range 1 into Jess. Just see if he can make something happen. It's going to be 2 crits. Jess has her rerolls. She'll be spending that reroll defensively this time for 2 evades, and just going to show once again how powerful these passive guaranteed rerolls are that Charles is bringing to the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
So unfortunately, no damage whatsoever on the Brian's last shot of the game, and there's really not a move he can do to prevent that U-Wing from getting killed before it has another chance to shoot.
Hell, if I'm Charles, high K turn Poe here,
Right?
just to seal it completely.
Well, the U-Wing here is stressed. It can't stop anymore. It's going to have to straight. It's probably just going to be Rose killing it, to be honest. I wonder.
Probably.
I wonder if a K turn with that Red Squad veteran squeaks past.
I don't. Oh, K turn for Red Squad. Well, the problem is that Poe moves after him, and I don't think it fits there.
So,
Now, Pava could. I was thinking Pava could Talon roll left.
right. If this was anything other than the last turn of the game, we would be talking about Charles being in a little bit of an inconvenient position here.
Yeah,
but it's he's done quite a bit of damage before finally putting himself in an inconvenient position. So Charles not hurting at all here.
No, and that's probably the only reason I may have suggested the Poe K turn was it's possible that the 2 T70s bump into the yellow and leaving Rose the only shot on this U-Wing, and it would be really unfortunate if that didn't kill that U-Wing.
Well, it's also pretty unlikely given Rose would be having 3 rerolls and a focus token to make it happen.
But potentially only 2 dice, depending on where ranges land up.
That's true. Nah, I think once again, you just... does the pod have a blue 2-bank?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think once again, you just 1 straight with everybody. Worst case, you have to play 1 more turn after this.
Well, worst case is you don't kill the U-Wing, Brien kills a ship, and you continue to have to play.
You want to put any money on that?
Nope.
That's what I thought.
Also,
Cassian on
Papa doing a
Jess.
Talon roll.
Yeah, and Charles is trying out the Talon roll. Not a lot to be lost. In a way, there's something to be said about Pava doing this Talon roll, and then, Poe bumping into Pava as well. And yeah, she's going to clear that with ease, and Poe probably going to bump into Pava instead of that U-Wing.
She's doing the Talon roll right, actually.
Oh, she's doing it right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a shame. Red Squad vet bumping. Not sure where the 2-hard turn was trying to accomplish there, but maybe he was just covering if Yellow tried to get out of there and escape.
I think that's what that was trying to make sure Yellow didn't run away.
Sure. And this Talon roll here from Jess maybe accomplishing the same thing, but also accomplishing just guaranteeing that if she doesn't have a shot this turn, she will next turn.
And also giving her a strain.
And giving her a strain for all of the amount that she cares. And then Rose just doing that 1 straight. Yeah, no reason not to. Rose is going to have focus and at least 1 reroll with Jess. Depending on Poe's move, she might have 2 and probably will. Yeah, she'll have 2 rerolls and a focus there. Range 1, 3 dice to put the final point of damage nail in this U-Wing coffin.
Maybe. It is going to all come down to Rose.
Yeah, well, the U-Wing... This is the problem, though, and this has been this entire game. Here we are, the last shot of the game. Rose rolling 3 dice with a focus and 2 rerolls, and the U-Wing has no mods to speak of.
Yep.
We're going to have a reroll, and it's going to be 2 hits and a crit, and that is going to guarantee it. There's the end of this game.
Well, it was a bloody game, but also incredibly short. And the fact that Brien did as much damage as he did with only half his list really speaks to how scary these U-Wings could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to knock it, that was a heavy punch that Brien took, even with only 2 U-Wings.
Yeah. No, that losing a ship before it gets to shoot is bad enough. Losing a second ship before you've done any damage to your opponent you need a miracle to come back from that, and that simply did not happen here. Would you like to invite the players into the Discord, or we can come join them in TTS?
Let's join them in TTS because we think we got a private Discord call instead.
Hey, how's it going? It's a lot of bloodshed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew that rerolling dice was good?
It was good.
Rerolling dice
right?
for free.
Yeah, I don't know. They know about it. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely need more practice with them to get them into the parking lot. Because once I get all the ships into like the bump zone, I'm usually pretty good. But I just wasn't able to get in there, and I think the asteroid placement hurt me there. I should have cornered some obstacles.
Yeah, definitely. You've cut out there, Mark.
Yeah, he cut out there for a second.
You're back.
Yep, loud and clear.
We were talking about your leading two E-wings kind of coming around here, and they came around this side, right? But we were wondering if your trailing U-wings were going to come around here between the asteroid and the gas cloud, and then you chose to put them all the way around. And I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on what you were looking for with the trailing this way.
Gotcha. Yeah. Definitely, I like having at least benthic trail just to pass out focus tokens. And I guess I need to get more used to, I guess, learning his range band and all that stuff. Because this is the third time I've played with these U-wings. Third time using the list.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of figuring out how I should fly them. The past couple of games, I've been able to fly them in that block like all together, and been able to get people in the parking lot and just smelt them.
Right. Yeah, we were pointing out that Charles's damage really started to slow down once you started getting that bump fest set up.
Yeah,
it took you 1 or 2 turns longer than you needed.
Yeah, and it cost me big time.
Right. But I mean, the turns you made it work. I mean, you took Poe down to half in 1 turn. You took Jess down to half in 1 turn. If you'd had, we were just talking about if you'd had maybe just 1 or 2 turns more, pushing that, then this could have been a very different game.
Yeah, if I could have gotten Hef in there too, because he's the one that is like the key to make it happen, to where people start bumping into him and then he passes out coordinates and
and then Zeb lets him hit anyway,
shots.
and well, Charles, what do you think? I'd be interested in your thoughts on your approach there. We were talking about you deploying in the middle and whether that might have been a little bit too fast to engage, but
the commentators have all the answers, don't they?
Well, we were proven wrong, because I think you managed to engage at the perfect time.
Oh,
really
no, I hate to say it, but I really, I was really fortunate with how those maneuvers worked out, where I went through the clouds, nobody touched a cloud.
Yeah, no, we were sitting there talking about that turn you were one banking, and we kept thinking, Kevin was saying, well, he's not going to hit the rock, but he will hit the gas cloud. And I was saying, no. He's not going to hit the gas cloud, but he might hit the rock.
And
then you moved and you cleared both of them. And
thread the needle.
Yeah, it was very, very
So
nice
like if you look at, I'll show you this real quick. So like if you look at where Rose is right now, okay, you see that I'm going to unlock green.
Yeah.
You see that the side of the arc is right here, right? It's like right there, the blue. And then if I move her, why is it not working right? Let me see here real quick. If I move her 1 bank.
Oh, here, probably have to get rid of the arc deal. There we go.
Okay. So it's like right there. And if I move her, it's about a 1/4 inch off of her arc.
Okay.
So that's how I know where I'm going to be. I've got little tricks like that for every maneuver, basically.
Oh,
so
nice.
I visually look at the board like a too hard, a ship fits in the middle, turn at a 45. And so I just look at those types of things and I figure out where my ship's going to be. So I feel pretty confident about my maneuvers, because just, looking at the board, using other ships as a reference,
you can kind of map where they're at.
You can kind of figure it out. But yeah, I was really fortunate how that worked out. And the reason why Poe is at half is because I made the decision when Poe was back here of whether, so he did a 2 bank in or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Next turn. And it was like, I think I could take half off the board in 1 turn. And what surprised me was it took me only 3 shots to do it. Rose shot at, I think, yellow. That really surprised me, but I felt like I had the dice and the mods and all that stuff to take off.
I mean, just the turn before,
turn.
you had taken a U-wing off the board and you had nothing at range 1 at that point.
Yeah. I mean, rerolls plus focus.
That's
it's
good.
really
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
And crack
absolutely.
shot.
No surprise.
There's that too. So, yeah, no, I feel really fortunate. Ryan's a really good player and he's an even better guy. And I appreciate you, Brian, being
Thanks.
such a good sport throughout this whole game. After the first turn, he's like, maybe I'll concede next turn. But
Yeah,
he
because
stuck
it was
with it.
so demoralizing.
I'm sorry, man.
No,
I didn't
it's
want
okay.
it to be
No,
like
no,
that.
No, it was just a well played game.
Yeah, we saw you
So, but
taking
you
out
have
the
a
world
neat list, man.
championship dice there, and we were saying, all right, yeah, he's just having fun at this point.
He
Mhm.
was in the fire and the smoke and all that.
Yeah,
What a good
yeah.
sport Brian is. He's a good guy. We miss him up here. I was telling him that the whole game.
Yeah,
So,
dude, we need you back.
Yeah, I miss playing you guys in person.
Well, you're getting your fill of it here for sure.
Uh huh. Yeah.
Maybe he'll say now I'm not coming
Yeah,
back.
right. Nah,
Right.
screw you guys. I'm staying right where I am. All right.
Beat
Well,
up on some Apollo chumps. Yeah.
Right.
I appreciate you
Clemson
guys
Seals.
letting us stream, and
Yeah, no, thank you
that
guys
was
for
that
covering
was a super fun game to watch.
All right. Yep. Now it's time
and-
to submarine.
There you go. I'll be
Absolutely.
joining you, Brian. So maybe I'll see you next game.
Hey, all right.
It only takes it's not MOV, it's 4 wins to get to the cut. So
That's right.
Yeah, that's
So
very
win 2
doable.
more.
Yeah,
That's
so
all you got to do,
absolutely.
Brian. Win 2
Mhm.
more.
All right.
and
well,
list changes are now possible.
yeah, which
Oh,
I'm thinking
yes,
about.
yeah. I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
change
actually
it.
unlock them in right after this game's over. So
Okay, I'm excited.
All right. Well,
Cool.
thank you
Yeah,
all for
I didn't
joining
realize
us,
how much I
and,
missed like repositions until playing.
yes.
and have a good
Yeah.
night, everybody.
Hey, you too. Thank you, Mark and Kevin.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.